This is the long-awaited Rogue FM rack review. Rogue, one of the fastest growing and probably the king in the strength and conditioning world. This rack is the culmination of 15 years of engineering and design. Rogue bringing all of their componentry, companies they purchased like Reflex and Nebula and others into a single rack. This is long awaited and I think it was worth the wait. Let's review it. Hey guys, it's Coop from Garage Gym Reviews. Today I'm reviewing the Rogue FM series rack. I have the half rack behind me, very similar to the FM6 rack. I'm gonna be talking about both of these, also in comparison to the twin stack, as well as the upcoming Rhino trainer. Oh, I can't wait for that one. If you'd like to see that one, make sure you subscribe because it's forthcoming. I'm also gonna do a comparison to the Aris 2.0 and have some unique, basically, tests that we've done on these to compare them. Okay, so Rogue is by far the elephant in the room. I mean, Rogue is and has been for, I'd say 5 to 10 years, kind of the front runner, both for the home gym space, but just for the at-large strength and conditioning space. There's just a lot of things that they've worked on over a lot of years, and I think this is really like their magnum opus. They've taken some time to do it in kind of typical Rogue fashion, but sometimes things are worth the wait. So today we'll find that out. I wanna start by talking about the rack itself. The rack is based on their Monster 2.0 series. Monster 2.0 series is the 3x3 upright, 1-inch hole, true 3x3 inches. When I say that, if you're unaware, there's many companies that claim 3x3. In reality, they're 75 millimeter by 75 millimeter. They also use smaller and lighter bolts. This thing is almost fully made in the USA. Nearly everything from the cabling all the way to the steel, and almost nearly all made in their own in-house factories, including the accessories that come with it. Wild. The one thing that isn't made in the USA, and they make clear on their website, is the pulleys. The pulleys are imported. Now, the rack does come in a lot of different options, whether that's depths or heights. It has 2 different heights, 90-inch or 100-inch. Also has multiple depths, and depending on if you get a different variation, because these are modular racks, you can get a squat area that has 24, 30, or 43-inch depth. There's also a ton of colors, and not just colors, but also just coating options. So there's 13 different options you can choose from. You don't want the textured, but they offer it. You can choose this in this option, which is a half rack option. I love a half rack. It's also more compact, but you can also decide to choose it in a 6-post option. One of the things about Rogue, it's somewhat of a downside depending on who you are, what you're wanting, but it does have only a 49-inch width, but that's the standard. You may think like, oh, what does that matter? Well, it matters when you're racking and re-racking the bar. Also does allow a little bit more width on the functional trainer. I'll talk more about the functional trainer in a moment, but one thing you'll notice is they actually set the trolleys on the functional trainers to the outside of the uprights. This is already a wider upright. They then set those even further. This has maybe a little bit more width than some competitors. Now, to the depth, this is a deeper rack. Specifically on the single stack than say the Aris 2.0, it adds about 18 inches off the back of the rack, and even more so if you get the plate loaded version and you add on how much width the plate's gonna have, very similar to the Rhino. But I will say just generally, this thing is deeper for the single stack. If you're worried about depth, the twin stack comes off maybe 6 inches, so much less, and I would say is more of the Aris 2.0 competitor if you're worried about the depth of the rack. Now, I will say, just broadly speaking, and specifically to the rack, the quality on this is impeccable. Like, the whole process is just very well done. This is one benefit that Rogue has that other companies have trouble competing on, is the fact that because they make nearly all of this stuff in-house, they're able to quality control everything in-house. I just have to say, Rogue, you killed it. The quality is incredible. It is a premium product. Okay, before I get into the overall system design, just to speak briefly on the assembly, this came on 3 different pallets, 1 long one, 2 small ones. It's very well done. No marring or scarring. The process for assembly was actually very helpful. There's just little details that they've thrown in that I feel like a lot of companies overlook. Things like little sticker tabs on the cables to tell you the direction to put the cables in. There's just little features that are designed specifically to help with assembly. All right, to the overall system design, I would say 3 different categories of options. You have the single stack. The single stack can come in a plate loaded option or it can come in this single stack option with either a 250 or 300 pound stack. For many of you, go with the 250 pound option. The real reason that you want it is if you have a single stack, your cable travel matters a lot. So you're losing about 5 inches of cable travel with a 300 pound stack. I would think that most of you would prefer to have that 5 inches travel. So my opinion, but that's what I would look at. Some people don't like plate loaded for a functional trainer. Personally, I don't mind that much. Now, the twin stack and the single stack have the same functional operations. One of the benefits, there's a single place to adjust the weight. So you basically just have a single stack, you adjust the weight, it affects it on both sides. The pulleys are 2-to-1 on the sides for the functional trainer and 1-to-1 for the lat pull down and low row. That's significant. They've made this thing so it's just like tight tolerances. It just like once you pull on the functional trainer, the weight is there. It's just, very well done. Okay, to the pulleys, they decided to make aluminum pulleys the standard. My guess is they realized the market wants aluminum pulleys. Now, one thing they've done is they're integrating the pulleys along the cross members. This is something that there is some like negative to in comparison to Rep. Rep is running the cable underneath the cross member. There's more optionality for using the bottom cross member holes for things like band pegs and other attachments. So if you're doing a lot of band peg stuff, it would be annoying to you. Most of you are probably not. You like the option to have it, but I don't use bands a ton. So if you're like me, it's not a big deal, but something to be aware of. Okay, to the lat pull down, Rogue rarely calls out competitors. Rogue often just presents themselves as the only option in the market. Well, I think they've experienced some headwinds from Rep, and for good reason. Rep has done a lot of great stuff. And because of that, they're now calling out competitors on their racks. And because they're second to market, they have a second mover advantage. And that means they can say things about the other competitor that was the first mover and say, we've improved upon this. One example of that is the lat pull down and low row. One of the things that Rogue calls out on their site is that Rogue uses a single cable where competitors use 2 cables that require clunky things. This is exactly what they say. They say, unlike many competitor models that require proprietary, specialized attachments to be able to achieve a 1-to-1 load for lat pull down and low row, that to bridge 2 cables, the Rogue FMHR system is compatible with all standard cable attachments. In some way that's true. It may be a little exclamatory. Reason being, like, you can use standard cable attachments with the Aris 2.0. You just have to use their banana clip system. Rogue is like, hey, we're just gonna give you one. It's less optionality, but I think for a lot of people, less optionality makes it simpler for a movement that they're not really gonna use on the Aris anyway. So you have to decide if that matters to you, but Rogue is claiming that as a benefit, and for my personal training, it is a benefit. Now, if you're really tall, you may want to consider the 100-inch option on the rack just for having full stretch on the lat pull down. Now to the low row. The low row is a single cable. I measured it. This one is 10 inches off the ground. The Rep Aris is 13 inches off the ground. Both of them are fine. This one really is designed to be used on the floor, whereas the Rep Aris is designed to be used on the floor, but you can also use it on a decline bench. I will say Rogue is adding, they have a permanent diamond plate adjustable foot plate. They also added basically this angle at the top. So technically you could use a decline bench if you wanted and then have something for your feet that's angled. It would feel fine. They're using pulleys on both the top and the bottom of the cable. So technically if you wanted, you could use that portion for cable curls or high rows, things like that. There is a pulley that allows you to do so. There's other little details that they add in on this section in a lot of the rack that's just like, that's a nice comfort feature. One example is the low row. They have this UHMW molded Rogue logo hand tab on the bottom. So like they didn't have to put this there. Like I don't think anybody would really even comment on it if it wasn't there, but it just allows you to grab a piece of plastic that's thicker, easier for a hand to adjust. So you're not just grabbing like that thin 3/16 inch metal and just allows you to pull it. It's just nice. It's small, but it's nice. Then to the functional trainer. Now it is classic Rogue in that it's big, it's over-engineered, it's overbuilt. I mean, there is a certain customer that loves that. So the trolley system is really unique. I'm sure it took a lot of thought on their end. Instead of going with a separate hitch pin, it's all integrated. So there's nothing you have to pull off and then move and then put back in. This one is designed to be used with 2 hands. They're integrating the locking system And they're finally using the keyhole system, but there's two of them. There's one at the top, one at the bottom. The one at the bottom locks into the side of the keyholes. You adjust both while holding the nice stainless steel knurled handles, two of them, pull it, go up and down. Now, I took a fish scale to this one and to the Rep Aris 2.0 just to determine like what's the weight of them. Here's me doing that.
Okay, quick test of the feel weight of the trolley. Is going to do this one and then also going to compare it to the Aris 2.0. This is simply a luggage fish scale. We have the knobs zip tied, so there's no tension. This is the weight. About 22 pounds. Rep claims the reason they didn't go with rollers was because it makes it lighter. You can do a one-hand operation easier. Let's find out if that's true. No carabiners, no cables, no cable attachments. Basically doing apples to apples here. You're looking at, I mean, if I give it tension, 13 pounds, 14 pounds, somewhere around there. So it is lighter.
So as you can see from that little video, there's about a little bit less than a 10-pound difference between them, but the whole system combines with all the pulleys and everything, like, to be very smooth. It is very smooth. Smoother than Rep? Not necessarily. Both of them are incredibly smooth using great components. Now to performance. Now you can do everything that you'd want to do on this rack that you can do on just about any other rack, including incline bench. It's not a problem. I will say I do give a credit to Rep on the fact that they have the dock for their benches on their rack. It's kind of like, hey, you buy our benches, you stay in our ecosystem, we're gonna benefit you by making these connect together. I would have liked if Rep had something like that. I will say Rep just needs to pretty much copy this. They need to do something similar because this is so good and it doesn't fit on the Rep rack. But the utility roller is fantastic. Why it took so long to come out with this, it is so nice. I use this thing all the time. It's great for keeping your legs down on lat pull downs, but it's also great for a ton of exercises. I need to do a full video on it because it's just that good. And if you're gonna buy the rack, buy the utility roller, please. Like, it will just improve your situation using the rack that much more. Now to details. There are UHMW everywhere, like everywhere you can think of. Stainless steel on the handles, stainless steel on the channel that you never really even see, but connects from the low row plate into the actual tube. Definitely the best included accessories of any rack that comes out. Stainless steel, made in the USA, made in-house with great knurling lat pull down bar. I love these freaking handles because they're a thin diameter, feel really good. Something that's kind of cool, they use 2 monster strips for shipping, basically to protect some of the stuff and for bolting. This is something that you usually have to pay for. You can use them for storage off your wall or to attach something else. They need to use something to ship things together and to keep things safe. Why not use something that people can reuse? Genius. Another detail, which is nice, is they have the cutout on the front of the rack so you can see the upright or the number you're on for the trolley for the functional trainer. I will say though, a little bit annoying if they're gonna make a change. One thing to do is put it on the side of the rack. They made this so you adjust the functional trainer trolley on the side of the rack using the 2 handles. Well, in order to see where you're at, you have to be like here, if that makes sense. They need to just put a cutout on the side and then put numbers on the side of the upright. Like, be very nice. It'd actually be better than putting the numbers on the back of the uprights, which they do now. If you're gonna do 2, put one on the side and put one on the front. That would be ideal so you could see it while you're moving it up and down. Minor, but worth calling out.
All right, one thing that's minor, but this is, why, Rogue? Why the yellow? I don't know, it just doesn't fit. There's no knurling. It just doesn't fit with the rest of the product. This thing feels off the shelf, whereas everything else feels very custom. So one thing I want to say on this, if you notice, the pulleys come from the top, or the cables come from the top, which means you need to store them at the top. Reps does the opposite. So they make theirs, the Aris 2.0 comes from the bottom. One thing on this, that the reason Rep did that is so that for basement dwellers, people with shorter racks. But one thing I'm thinking through is this upright, because of where the cables sit, you really can't use like the LT1 50 cal trolley system, the newer version, any of their jammer arms, they just don't really work. So I don't know if Rogue is just like abandoning jammer arms, if they have some plan for them to integrate into this system as well. So one thing you'll notice on the rack is it doesn't have a pull-up bar, no integral pull-up bar, and not really even one to add one on the inside. But if you have the half rack version, one way that you can do pull-ups is on this lap bar. Obviously it moves a little bit side to side, but this thing is definitely strong enough, no problem, if you want to do pull-ups on it.
For pricing, now this thing is not cheap. You get what you're paying for. And you're also getting like crazy warranties and stuff like that. But so I went through and I basically built these out using all the same components, trying to get the same heights, same J-cups, same safeties, all that. So this is basically for the 6-post rack. You had nothing from Rep, you're just buying everything up front. This is what it would cost. For a rack from Rep Aris 2.0, $4,650 with free shipping is basically what you're looking at. I'm not including tax or anything like that. For the same options from the Rogue FM6 with a 250-pound stack, you're looking at $5,520. That's a big difference. The Rogue FM6 Twin, which I think is really more of the competitor to the Aris 2.0, reason being 2 different 300-pound stacks. That one is $5,970 with free shipping. Almost $1,500 difference, $1,400 difference. It's a lot of money. Is that worth it? Here's my recommendation. If you go on a rep rack, get the Aris 2.0. Throw that bad boy on there, enjoy it. It's fantastic. If you own a Rogue rack, go with this guy. If you don't own either of these, oh, that's hard. If you're gonna spend this much, I mean, you got the cash. Not a lot of people that are scrimping by buying these racks because they're pricey. If you're starting from scratch, money's no object. The Rhino Trainer is my pick. That Rhino Trainer is amazing. Between these two, if you're like quality matters a lot, USA made matters a lot, Rogue is the obvious option. Now, the quality on the Rep is also amazing, but it is a little bit of a step down. If price does still matter and you just want the utility of it, the Rep Aris, because it's less and it can do all the same stuff this can do in similar ways, but even different things like bilateral. Regardless, this is a rack you can have the rest of your life. I highly doubt Rogue comes out with a 2.0 of these for a long time. Rep came out with the Aris 2.0 a year after the Aris 1.0. That's annoying. It's nice in that for people that haven't bought, it's like they're iterating. That innovation is very nice. But Rogue, they tend to sit on their products longer, sometimes too long. I'm looking at you, Rogue Safety Squat Bar. So there's my thoughts on the Rogue FM rack. Rogue, I mean, they killed it. This is what I was hoping. This is what we expected. This took a long time, but man, they did a great job. It is pricey. You have other options in the market too. If you'd like to see me do a direct comparison on this rack versus any other rack, let me know in the comments. Also, I do have the Rogue Rhino Trainer forthcoming review. If you'd like to see that, let me know as well, and we'll get it out as soon as possible. This has been Coop from Garage Gym Reviews. I'll see you next time. Peace.